All right. Hello and welcome to Around the Horns. I'm Aaron and I am here with my co-host, Zach. So today we've got a lot of stuff planned. We're going to take a quick look back at this past weekend against Kansas, including just an insane Saturday at the Disch, which gave me a new segment idea, which we're going to talk about pretty early in the show today. So hope you guys are excited for a new segment. We're going to talk about the Big 12 tournament a lot. We're going to walk through what needs to happen for Texas to possibly host an NCAA regional. A lot of stuff going on. We'll talk on the baseball side of it. Zach, what is our plan if there's just a fire in the middle of the show? Do we have extinguishers? Do you got some water nearby? What's the plan? Because apparently that's something you have to plan for these days.
Yeah, so I think at this point, like it's postseason time, so you gotta get hot, right? So you just gotta sit there and you can fan the flames. So
Okay, cool. So your recommendation is if there's a fire during the YouTube show, we're just gonna burn live on camera.
Yeah.
And just wear it. All right. No.
For the good of the team. Well, let me tell you, we'll wear it better than Faltini. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean the quality of the content might drop a little if I'm experiencing like 3rd-degree burns, but we'll just roll with that. But yeah, I mean, speaking of that nonsense, if you don't understand that reference, that's okay. It's the LHN, the game on Saturday, the LHN production truck caught on fire. Everyone was okay. So, we're going to talk about it. There might be an occasional joke. No one was injured except for the equipment of LHN's TV production. But yeah, there was a real fire. The last couple of games were not broadcasted, but that was just a small part of just a crazy day at the Disch on Saturday. I mean, Ivan tied the home run record on Friday, and then we had Saturday trying to see if he was going to break the record at home at the Disch. Kansas was trying to play spoiler when they had absolutely nothing to play for. Their season was all but over. There was almost fights. You mentioned Faltini. I mean, Southard was mad. Upshaw from Kansas was mad. Messenger was mad. Everyone was mad. Senior day, a lot of stuff going on. There was a fire. There was an umpire that could not see the ball. Trust me, we will get to that in a second. And then also, one of my favorite things, shout out to the random Kansas freshman that got tossed from the dugout from like 100 feet away by the first base umpire. Was not really involved in any of the shenanigans whatsoever. He was just yelling from the dugout. I respect that so much. I played baseball recently. I was that guy that didn't maybe play too much, but I talked a lot of trash in the dugout. I like to yell. He got tossed. We think he's suspended for the first game next year. Shout out to him. Zach, what are you going to remember most about Saturday?
Well, so just touching on the random freshman from Kansas to get tossed. Not only does he get tossed by the first base umpire, who, like you said, 100 feet away, the dude is in the dugout like, who me? Who me? And then later on, I see a tweet picture go out where he's, got his, not jersey on, but his warm-up top and everything on. And he's just standing there with his backpack on the concourse watching the game. Like, dude, go to the bus. Get out of here. What are you doing?
He's got nowhere to go. I mean, he's just lost. I mean, oh man, I just laughed so hard when that happened because it was the most like D3 day of baseball that I can remember in a long time, except it was literally senior day for a must-win game at the University of Texas. And everything that was happening was just screaming D3. I felt back in my element. It was absurd. But all right, I teased it enough. We're going to talk about the umpire here just a little bit. I've got a new segment. So if you don't know the full backstory, there were some very shaky calls. The home plate umpire, there were some shaky calls at the beginning of the game. There were pitches that were being called strikes that were in the other batter's box on multiple occasions. It was really bad. David Pierce talked to us after the game. He said it was so bad they were concerned that it might have been a health issue. It was very, very hot at the Disch. And sure enough, we come to find out that the home plate umpire was suffering from heat exhaustion and eventually told Silas Ardoin that he could not see the ball and removed himself from the game. He ended up being okay. He got treatment from the trainers. Everything's fine. We can poke a little fun at the situation. We're not making fun of him. If I was back there in home plate umpire's gear, I probably would have died by the second inning as well. So it's nothing towards him. It's just a funny situation overall that took place. But it was absolutely horrible. I mean, Zach, we're talking about a home plate umpire that admitted to the catcher that he could not see the ball. I mean, the press box just, what was your reaction when we heard that post game from David Pierce?
There's been a couple times where Coach Pierce has just blatantly shocked me, but that probably takes number one for the entire season. When he just comes out and is like, yeah, he tapped Silas on the shoulder, and I think it was mid count too. I think it was like 1 or 2 pitches in, and he tapped Silas on the pat, and he's like, "I'm out," and like just starts strolling down the first baseline, like not even like waits for people to come over. Like he's just gone.
Yeah, he's like, see you guys later. I'm out of here. I'm just trying to think of Silas
for a D1 baseball umpire to admit openly that he had not been able to see the baseball. Wow. Okay.
I mean,
and then Pierce had said that, you know, for about 2 innings prior, they had been concerned, and Pierce had even gone over and talked to the third base umpire to be like, "Hey, is he okay? Like, are there health concerns? What's going on? Like, this is a really bad game." You know, I was having flashbacks to the game earlier in the season where the analytics team is like, "Yeah, he scored really, really bad. Like his game was so poorly called." I was like, "No, not this on the last day, senior day." And wow, yeah, that's shocking.
I was trying to think of what was Silas Artois' reaction when the umpire tells him, like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I can't see the ball." Is Silas like, "Yeah, man, like I can tell. I've been back here the whole time. I know you can't see the ball." Or did he know like immediately, "Oh, this guy's being serious. Like he's about to pass out and just land on me. I need to get this guy out of here." But I don't know. So here's the new segment. The segment is titled "Unfortunate Roadblocks in a Given Profession." This is, of course, inspired by the home plate umpire that could not see a ball. So what we did is Zach and I each came up with 3 different things that would be, if you're trying to make a career out of something, if you're trying to complete a task, what would you not want to be preventing you from completing that task and hindering your ability to do that job well? We're just going to go back and forth. We're going to rip on each other's rankings. Zach, this going to try to have some fun here. Zach, what is your first one?
So I tried to not go take this like completely to the dark side, but the first one I had was a bomb diffuser with the shakes, whether it's, you know, a hangover, whatever, you know, just had a bad night. Like you're setting yourself up for failure, my man. Like everyone step back.
Like, yeah, you're just trying to meticulously pull the right wire, press the right button, and you just had a few too many the night before. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Hopefully that never happens. I'm sure that would never happen. Those guys are very well prepared. I'm sure in the life of being a bomb diffuser, you are on high alert 24/7.
But if you diffuse bombs, you probably have a drink or 2 afterwards. I mean, you're, you know, a little stress release. So yeah.
Maybe. All right. I like that. Okay. So my third one, I kept it a little lighter. A lifeguard that just can't swim. So imagine that you're at the local pool. Someone really needs assistance in the water. There's 2 kids. They're fighting. One kid's trying to drown another kid. Everyone's screaming. And the lifeguard is just up there perched on that high chair under that nice umbrella, and they're just looking at him. Everyone's yelling at the lifeguard, and the lifeguard's just like, I can't help you, man. I don't know how to swim. I don't know. I'm just here to get tan, have some fun at the pool, get some nice sunlight. But yeah, that reminded me of the umpires, just like a lifeguard that cannot swim, an umpire that cannot see. That was my first one. All right, what do you got next?
So my next one is a lighter side as well, a colorblind photographer. You know, you're trying to take a photo and you're not seeing it. Like
I like that. Okay, so that's funny because I actually went the same route with my second one. Similar. I said a colorblind person trying to solve a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not talking about like those colorblind people. No offense to colorblind people or anything like that. I'm sure it's a serious issue, but you know how some colorblind people are like, "Yeah, man, I'm colorblind. Orange, it kind of looks like red to me."
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, you're not colorblind. Like orange does look like red. That's just how orange works. That's the point of orange. But I don't know. I'll digress. That's not my main argument here. I'm talking about like the real colorblind people that like live their life in a late 1800s film, just straight black and white, trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. I know there's like a technique where people can solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, I guess, but don't you need to at least like know the starting point and like know which side you're trying to go to first or something? I've never really been a Rubik's Cube guy.
I've never been a cube guy, so I don't know. My understanding is that like no matter what starting point, within X number of moves, if you do the same combination, you can solve it every single time. But I've never actually tried it out. So
yeah, I don't understand like how you would not at least need to know one part first, so like what you're putting in that corner, whatever. But yeah, I mean, a blind person or a colorblind person trying to solve a Rubik's Cube, that came to my mind. All right. I know I saved my best one for last. What, did you save your best one for last? Or you just got another one?
I think I saved my darkest and most ridiculous one for last. So granted, I just watched, the Narcos movie, but I was thinking like, you have the poor souls that are sitting there just making the cocaine and everything. and one of them has an allergy attack, and all I can see them is sneezing and just poof everywhere.
I like that.
Like you're setting yourself up for success or failure there.
So a drug dealer that's allergic to cocaine is what you're going with. Okay. Yeah. No, that probably would not fly in some of the cartels. That's probably one of the first tests they put you through is to make sure you can be in the same room as the product. All right. My last one, a vegan sumo wrestler. I would not want my sumo wrestler to be a vegan. I know vegans, like they're capable. They can be very athletic, very strong. But like we've got the plant man, Tom Brady, Mookie Betts is not eating meat anymore. That's fine for them. They're very productive, great athletes. That is not what I am looking for from my sumo wrestlers. I need mass, intimidation. I need them to be thick. It's just more of a reputation thing than a performance thing. I need you to be intimidating. Imagine you're a sumo wrestler and you're in your pre-match like scouting report meeting. And you're going over the opponent, and the first thing that pops up is, oh, this guy's like been a vegan for 3 years. He's been eating nothing but carrots and asparagus. And my confidence would shoot way up. I'm just not scared by that guy. The sumo wrestler needs to be massive. That came to my mind. There were a lot of other that came to my mind. I'm not going to say them because I'm going to encourage people in the comments or whenever we tweet this out, tell us what your best one is. You know, there's a lot of different possibilities. A lot of things jumped into my head. But we'll try to move on to some baseball here. But we did want to go through that exercise real quick because I just thought the umpire thing on Saturday was it was that special. And
that was one in a long list of just ridiculous things that occurred during that game where, you know, you've got Greg Swindell, the legendary Swindell, sitting over your shoulder going, yeah, we're dark, man. Like we're done for the season.
Yeah. See you guys next year. I'm out of here. Chuck's on fire. But yeah, I mean, it was a crazy day. Luckily, everyone was okay. To the baseball side, it was a big sweep for Texas. It looked like it was going to be in jeopardy there for a second on Saturday. Messenger came through with the big grand slam against his old team. I mean, Todd and Staley going deep on senior day. Same with Eric Kennedy, all in the same inning. What is your biggest takeaway from the series or an individual game? It was kind of a straightforward weekend until it just was not.
Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward until Saturday, obviously in the finale, but had a couple takeaways. So one, Daly with the grand slam, and then backing up the next day with another home run. Like if Daly gets hot, Texas legitimately has power and hitting throughout the entire lineup, which we already know. Like if you look at the NCAA stats, they're third in home runs. They're up there, I think number 4 or 5 in batting average. But man, getting right at the getting hot at the right time of the season is vital. And you get Daly going, who was probably their best hitter last year. And that's just another log to build on. Just keep building it up and build that fire. You know, EK coming back and really outshining everyone on Friday, including Ivan Melendez. He ties the record. It's like, oh yeah, we don't care about this guy. We want to talk about EK, you know, 2 home runs and a bunch of RBIs. But, you know, obviously, as I just said, like Ivan tying up the record was really cool. He had a bunch of chances to break it. Unfortunately, he did not. But it was cool to see Todd and Staley on senior day both go deep. You could tell both of them were super stoked about it. I think Todd was, you know, pretty like he was not expecting that at all. He hit that ball and was like, okay, another one of those. But yeah, that Messenger grand slam probably takes the cake. Like you're 4 years you spent with Kansas, grinding with those guys, learning with them, growing. And, you know, he was their best hitter for basically all 4 years.
Yep.
Come to Texas, senior day, you get to have the hug and the handshake with Coach Price at home plate, which is special for him. You could tell after the game, he was choking up. And then you come into the situation with the bases loaded and you hit the go-ahead grand slam, which won them the game essentially. Yeah, that's pretty special. So
yeah, and not to mention that the game was heated. Like the teams were mad at each other, and I mean, Skyler made it very clear after the game. There's no bad blood at all between him and Kansas whatsoever. But he was involved
high in the game. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he was in there backing up his teammates as he should be. But man, it had to be an emotional roller coaster of a day for him. For him to hit that grand slam. It's unfortunate it was not televised, but shout out to the person that was grinding though. Put the game on Instagram Live. Making the best out of a tough situation. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah. But, so touching back on the LHN production, you know, literal fire truck. Yeah. we'd been sitting there and Melendez was coming up, and I kind of quipped out loud to everyone in the press box, Melendez is going to break the record and no one's going to see it. And you could see Kevin, who's the SID at Texas, go, someone get a camera down there. Like, we got to figure this out. Yeah. And then, as you said, Messenger's hit was not televised. So no one knew that was going on. I had mentioned that the truck was on fire. My Twitter's just also caught on fire.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned to Kirk Bowles, the, Statesman writer, long time, hey, an A&M grad just took over Longhorn Network. A week later, the truck burns to the ground. Coincidence? I don't know. But, he tweeted that out and got a bunch of likes. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it is not a coincidence whatsoever. But it was really cool to see Eric Kennedy come back and hit 2 homers. The quote from Ivan after that game, I believe it was on Friday, that was pretty incredible. He said, yeah, Eric was eating all my steaks, meaning that he was taking all the RBI chances off the table. Ivan's going for the Triple Crown here. He's now second in batting average by 1 point. He made up some ground to Contreras on RBIs, but
he's only 4 behind. So
no thanks to Eric Kennedy, who kept clearing the bases right before Ivan would come up to hit. So good for EK to hit those homers, but we need everyone in on the Ivan Triple Crown train. But that was a pretty good quote there by Ivan. I thought that was a fun interaction after the game.
Yeah.
The offense looks good, man. There's nothing to say negative about the offense, really. Like, we know any team can run into a pitcher that has their A game and strike out a lot and get shut down. That can happen to any team in the country, and it can happen to this team. But the lineup 1 through 9 is so good, and not even just 1 through 9. You got Dylan Campbell coming off the bench now. He's a bat that you can plug in late in the game.
Yeah. Really
good pinch runner, can do a lot of things. I mean, I got nothing bad to say about the offense. Obviously, the pitching was pretty solid the first 2 days. Neither Hansen nor Gordon really had their best stuff, especially Hansen, but they both grinded and got the wins, which is kind of what they do. Saturday was concerning, though, because Morehouse, granted, it was on 3 days rest, so I'm not going to freak out too much about him. He wasn't sharp, and then Tristan Stevens was walking people, which was really strange to see. Usually when teams get to Stevens, it's a couple bloops here and there, a couple balls find the hole, and then it's like a gapper or a home run. To see him walk that many batters in a short period of time was a little concerning. So
he was I will say, like, I give Stevens a little bit more of a break, though, because he was the result of John Wolf not being able to see baseballs behind the plate.
True. That
so he was right in the midst of John Wolf's like heat exhaustion going full meltdown. When the entire press box goes, that's in the opposite batter's box and being called a strike. Like,
yeah,
pretty ugly. I think you touched on it, though. Morehouse with 3 days rest. You could tell his velo was down. His curveball, which has a really nice 9.6 break, just wasn't quite as sharp. And so, I think tiredness definitely played a pretty big factor there. So,
they're going to need those 2 guys with Morehouse and Stevens if they're going to make a deep run this weekend in Arlington or in a regional after that. The pitching staff is already thin enough. They're going to need quality innings from Morehouse and Stevens. So that is going to be really important to watch this weekend as Texas tries to make a run in Arlington. And then, of course, the other story, Ivan Melendez, he is tied with Kyle Russell for the single season home run record at Texas. He's got 28 right now. He's got plenty of games left, who knows? It could be 4 games left. We don't know how many games are left at this point, but he's got a good shot to break that record. How about he just breaks it with a game-winning home run on Wednesday morning against Oklahoma State? Is that good? Is that good by you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love him, even in the first bat, just come up in the first inning, just crank one out and just be like, all right, I got the record. We're on early. Like, let's get it going. So that'd be cool to see. It would have been nice to see because his entire family was in from El Paso. This was the first game his entire family all season had been at a Disch field. So it would have been special, but you know what? You got to wait to have that special moment in the Big 12 tournament. So,
yep. Yeah. They got to see him tie it, which is also really, really cool.
Yeah.
But on to the Big 12 tournament. So let's get into that preview. Texas finished as the number 5 seed in the Big 12 after a series of chaotic tiebreakers that confused Zach and I and many others. Oklahoma State finishes the number 4 seed. So we've got Texas versus Oklahoma State, Zach, Wednesday, 9 a.m. baseball. Most D3 thing I've ever seen. And it didn't even happen to me during my D3 career. I didn't even ever have to play a game at 9 a.m., but Texas will, and it's going to be one of the most important games of the year. What are your thoughts? Pitching matchups, Oklahoma State. It's hard to beat a good team 4 times in a row. Maybe that's a good thing for Texas, but also they did, get swept at home by Oklahoma State. What are your thoughts on this initial matchup?
Yeah, I mean, initially, at first, I don't like it, because Oklahoma State is a good team. We know that. We saw them, what they could do to Texas in Austin. But as you mentioned, it's really hard to beat a team 4 times. Like, Texas is going to come in with that revenge factor. They have something to prove because they know they all want to host a regional, and they know that they have to go do something. They have to make some noise in the Big 12 tournament. They're not going to have to face Justin Campbell in game 1, which is good. They likely will have to face Bryce Osmond, which is not as good because he obviously did really well against Texas on that Saturday start. But he got touched up in his last 2 outings, and he missed his Baylor start just to get some rest. And so, he'll be fresh, but, sitting out is not always the best thing for pitchers either. Sometimes they get a little rusty, or they don't quite have the feel for it. So I think it's a good matchup in terms of Texas wanting to make up some ground in the RPI and prove to the committee that they deserve to host. I just, you got to hope that Hansen comes out just throwing flame balls, because they're going to need Hansen to be really strong in that game.
Yeah, and Hansen, we know, struggled last time out against Oklahoma State. He went 7, but he gave up the 6 runs, a couple big homers. The Osmond thing is interesting because, like you said, he didn't throw this weekend. Is that because something was up? Were they trying to rest him to have him like really, really fresh for this start against Texas? Because, but they didn't know it was going to be Texas. So it's a weird situation. I'll be interested to see how he looks.
Yeah.
Victor Medeiros is the one that threw on Thursday, the same day as Pete Hansen. Well, I guess they're saving him for the next game. It'll be interesting to see how the pitching shakes out. But regardless, we know Oklahoma State has some dudes in the back of that bullpen, which one of the first things I wrote down is Texas needs to get the lead in this game. They don't want to be trailing late, having to try to tack on runs or come from behind against the main guys in this Oklahoma State bullpen. You got Fansucker, you've got McLean.
Yeah.
Those guys are really powerful arms that shut down Texas the first time around. So I want to see Texas get a lead in this game. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you look at Oklahoma State, they're 5-5 over their last 10.
Yeah.
They swept SEMO. They gave up 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th to lose to Dallas Baptist. Then they got swept by Texas Tech at home. And then they lost the first game against Baylor.
And they blew a big lead in that one too.
And they blew a big lead in that one too. They gave up 8 runs in the 7th or 8th inning.
Yep.
And they bounced back to win the next 2 games, but they're not hitting. I would say Oklahoma State's not in full stride right this moment. And with the quick turnaround, maybe that benefits Texas, who is 8-2 over their last 10. So they've kind of been piecing it together. It'll be interesting to see. Like, I expect Osmond to be the pitcher simply because of the success he had against Texas. But if you look at the success he had against Texas, it's really kind of out of the norm. He gave up 0 runs. His last 2 outings, he's given up 5 runs. The 2 outings before that, he gave up several. And so I'd rather see Medeiros on the mound. This weekend against Baylor was his first game back after he went just 1 inning and injured that oblique against Texas. So he missed SEMO and Tech. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what pitching wise Oklahoma State does. The one thing they do have, as you said, is they have a lot of arms they can throw out there. Their long relief is good. But for me, the magic number is 7. If you look at all the conference wins and all the conference losses for Oklahoma State, if Texas can keep Oklahoma State under their average number of runs of 7, Texas has a chance. So
yeah, no, I agree.
That should be the goal.
It's going to be interesting too, because it'll be a Globe Life. Obviously, it's a pretty pitchers friendly park there. I imagine the game plan for both teams will be to prevent walks and base runners, and then try to keep the ball in the ballpark. Yeah. These are both really powerful teams with some big power hitters. We know both teams can get it out of the park, as we saw in that first series.
Yeah, so Dorshing, if someone like Coy Cobb floats at Dorshing, it's going to be hit to Oklahoma. So he's got to keep it down and away from that guy.
Obviously, same can be said about their pitchers against, Ivan Melendez. So
Yeah.
It will have that same approach. The big ballpark, Texas is obviously a very home run. They've been hitting a lot of home runs this year, a school record by 1 billion. So moving to a pitcher's park, it's not great. This offense is still so deep. I still think the offense is going to produce and put up runs. Bryce Osmond has shut him down multiple times in the past. It'll be interesting to see if he does get the start, how he looks. But, this is just one game. It's going to be a tournament. There's 8 teams rolling into Arlington. Let's talk about the rest of it. So the way the bracket is shook out, it's basically 2 regionals of 4, and then the 2 teams that win their regions will play a 1-game winner take all on Sunday. In the top half of the bracket, it's TCU, the 1 seed, against Baylor, the 8 seed, and then Oklahoma State and Texas. So those are the 4 teams in that section. Look at the other side. You've got Texas Tech going up against K-State, and then Oklahoma, the 3 seed, going up against the 6 seed, West Virginia. Who do you think is the bottom one is more thorough, because K-State and West Virginia are clearly better than Baylor, even though Baylor did take one against Oklahoma State. Which side do you think is tougher there? And then how do you see each side shaking out? Because, it could go a lot of different directions. Obviously, these teams, as we saw from the standings and the games throughout the year, 1 through 6, these teams are very close.
Yeah, the parity this year in the Big 12, it's hard to even say that TCU, even though TCU obviously won the conference outright,
yeah,
it's hard to call them the best team. TCU and Baylor like that, I don't think that's going to be much of a contest. I think TCU is playing really, really well right now.
Yep. Oklahoma
State and Texas is a really interesting matchup. It's probably the biggest game on the Wednesday slate of all of the conference tournaments, if you look at them. And it happens at 9 a.m. So what a way to kick off the day.
It's huge. Yeah.
On the bottom half of the bracket, in the afternoon and the evening games, I don't think K-State stands much of a chance against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is, they're hitting the ball well. They're pissed off coming off a series loss against Oklahoma, in which if they had won, they basically would have won the Big 12 outright. And then OU's playing some really good ball right now. Those guys are hitting the ball well. They're pitching well. But West Virginia is not a pushover. They absolutely murdered K-State this weekend. And so, West Virginia likes to run a lot. If they could give the OU pitching staff fits, just athleticism alone, and athleticism can take you pretty far. So the way I kind of see it is I think TCU and Tech end up in the title game. TCU because of their pitching and just they're kind of a hot team right now. And then in the bottom half, I think Tech, even though I don't believe that they have a real number 3 starter, I think just hitting alone, they can carry that offense through Oklahoma and West Virginia and K-State. So,
yeah, no, that's a good pick. I could see this going so many different directions. I ended up going with Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma in the title game. I'm not even locking in that Oklahoma State will beat Texas in game 1. I'm not betting against Pete Hansen, but I could see Oklahoma State losing that first game, beating the crap out of Baylor in the losers bracket game. Then you roll back around against Texas or TCU. I think Oklahoma State has the number 3 starter in the bullpen to win that type of game. And then they have the bats to carry them through whatever other games they need to win to get out of that side of the regional. I still, even though Oklahoma State has been ice cold lately, I still think they're the most complete team that I saw in the Big 12 this year when it's all clicking. The bullpen's been shaky. Justin Campbell suddenly trending in a bad direction. They're not looking great right now, but I'm just going to go with what I saw this year and what I'm going to stay consistent with my opinions. And then Oklahoma, I don't know what's going to happen in that bottom half of the bracket. I do think Tech is probably the best team. Oklahoma's red hot right now. I don't love the bullpen, but the bats are hot. I'm going to say Oklahoma State, knowing literally anything can happen. But
my thing was if you get down to the number 3 or 4 starter on Friday and it's Tech versus OU, you're going to have a 15 to 12 game potentially. And at that point, if you're going offense to offense, I'll take Texas Tech. So and Jace Young. But Oklahoma has just as good of a chance as anyone. They're equally hot. They've been on fire as of late. So
yeah, there's going to be 6 teams in the Big 12 that make the NCAA tournament, which is pretty incredible. Zach, I'll let you rip through those RPIs, and then we're going to talk some regional stuff, some seeding stuff. There's obviously a lot of conference tournaments going on around the country. I just want you to do your thing and then point out some teams that Texas really needs to be rooting against. If Texas wants to host a regional, we obviously think they need to win probably 3 games, if not more, to have a shot. And then what else needs to happen?
Yeah, so the current RPI is Oklahoma State sits at 18, Texas is at 21, Oklahoma is at 31. They've really come up. TCU's at 34, which is about where they've been. West Virginia sits at 35, Tech at 37, and then Baylor's 76, K-State at 98, and Kansas at 161. So if Texas has the opportunity against potentially a 34 RPI and an 18 RPI, that's massive this time of year. They've got a winning record against Q1 teams. They're 13-10. So really, I think if they can beat Oklahoma State in game 1, and then they don't even necessarily need to beat TCU, which I'm projecting to be and beat, they got to get 2 wins, I think is what it comes down to, and not get blown out at all, because then the committee will see a blowout and they'll be like, what's going on? But that'll put them at 14-11 on the season in Q1 wins. I'm sorry, 15-11 on the season on Q1 wins. They'll have a top 20 RPI. Like they'll be over 40 wins
overall too.
Yeah, that'll be pretty. That'd be tough to host them out. As far as the, who does Texas need to be rooting for this weekend outside of themselves, obviously. Let's see, who do I have? We don't need LSU to get hot, because after beating or sweeping Vanderbilt, LSU's right back in the picture. So you really want LSU to, go one and done or 2 and done in the SEC tournament. I can't remember. I think it's double elimination after the first round. So they're a 4 pick. Yeah, they need to lose 2. You kind of don't want to see Arkansas do too much, just because they're still languishing in that potential could host, could not host.
I believe Arkansas was a 2 in the latest projections, right?
They're a 2 seed, but if they get 3 or 4 wins in the SEC tournament, they're right back in the top 16.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like LSU, I know, talking to Kendall Rogers, he said they're like number 17 seed overall right now. So they're right there. I know Vanderbilt just got swept. They're probably out of it, but if they were to sweep through Hoover and win it all, they're going to host. They're in the number 3 or 4 RPI. And then some other teams you don't want to see do well is you want to see Texas State make an early exit out of the Sun Belt, Fun Belt. You want to see Oregon make a very early exit out of the Pac-12, because they're hosting right now in the projections. Do I think they should be? No, I don't. And then Georgia Southern is the number 16 seed.
Yeah,
that's another one. You want to see them exit very early from the Sun Belt, Fun Belt. Only issue there being, if they exit early, that means likely Texas State's going to make a deep run into the Fun Belt. So those are the teams we got to kind of look out for. Gonzaga is another one you probably want to see get bounced out of the West Coast pretty quickly. So,
yeah, I had the same thought. I mean, when I was looking at the SEC specifically, it was LSU, it was Vanderbilt, it was Arkansas. I mean, obviously those are 3 good teams. It's going to be hard for all 3 of them to be bad at the same time. But yeah, I mean, the Vanderbilt one's tough because the RPI and the strength of schedule is so good. And then it's Vanderbilt. So you just got that added element of, yeah, they want to give them a host, nice facility, of, prestigious tradition. But then you dig deeper into the resume, it's like, this is not that good. Yeah. Arkansas, if they win a couple games, they'll probably hop back in. And then, I mean, the Big 12 one is going to be huge. I mean, if Texas could beat Oklahoma State, and then Oklahoma State even maybe loses to Baylor, if Oklahoma State goes 2-Q, they could fall out. I imagine TCU is going to get a spot, even though TCU doesn't have a bad RPI. Winning the Big 12 outright, even if it was just by a game, I don't think they're going to drop out of being a host.
So if we look at the projections, TCU is the 14 overall seed hosting. Oklahoma State's a 15 overall seed hosting. Texas Tech is a 2 seed in the Maryland region, which is Maryland's projected to be the number 6 overall seed. Texas is a 2 seed in the Texas A&M regional, which they're projected to be a top 8. And then Oklahoma is also a 2 seed in the number 11 overall seed Virginia regional. And then West Virginia is a 3 seed. And of course, no matter what, West Virginia could win the Big 12 tournament and they're still going to be stuck in the Virginia Tech regional, no matter what they do.
Yeah. The more I look at the Big 12 and think about it, it feels like Texas has to make it to that title game, because if Texas does not make it to the title game, that means either TCU or Oklahoma State made it. I'm just going to discount Baylor. And if if those teams make it over Texas, they're going to be ahead of Texas hosting wise and all that. In the eyes of the committee, they'll be in front of Texas because they are right now. And then on the other side of the bracket, you said we've got Tech and OU sitting as 2 seeds right now. If either one of them make a run to the title game, that'll look good for them. They'll jump up. So I think Texas needs to be in that title game on Sunday, just Big 12 wise, because I mean, they're just going to be behind too many Big 12 teams. They need to make a deep run for sure.
What's crazy right now is Oklahoma actually has probably, like, if you go by seeding, Oklahoma has the best chance of being a host just because of how hot they've been. So if they get to the title game, I could see Oklahoma being a host. Texas,
because
Oklahoma State,
gone through Tech and West Virginia.
Of those 3, only one of them is probably going to get a host. So it's pretty much who makes the Big 12 championship game series or the title series. Whether
the 3 out of Texas, Tech, and Oklahoma.
No, Oklahoma State, Tech, and Oklahoma State, Texas, and TCU.
Okay.
I think only one of those 3 get a chance to host. Texas Tech, even if they won the Big 12, I don't think it'd be enough RPI wise this late in the season to get them into the hosting. At that point, it probably falls back to TCU and Oklahoma State alone. Yeah,
I think the Big 12 title, the regular season, is going to be big for TCU. I'm not sure they have to make it all the way to the title game, but yeah, I mean, the RPI isn't great. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot to root for. We're not going to root for Oregon, Gonzaga, LSU, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Southern Miss, Texas State, Georgia Southern. Just a lot of teams to root against. A lot is going to happen. Most importantly, Texas is going to have to throw strikes, and they're going to have to put together big innings to get to Sunday in the Big 12 title game. That would be big. It'd be great to have a regional in Austin that would help this Texas team. They've hit well in the ballpark. The Pete Hansen loves pitching at the ballpark. That would be big for a game 1. We know Lucas Gordon is big. He loves pitching at the Disch. There's a lot going on, Zach. You have any final overarching thoughts before we just watch college baseball for hundreds of hours this week?
No, I've got all my monitors and TV set up. I'm ready to go. It's postseason time. I'm hitting the road tomorrow to head up to Arlington. So instead of Zach at the Dish, it'll be Zach at the Globe. Ready for a fun time in Arlington.
Yeah, no, have fun up there. I'll be watching from home writing. I'll be writing a big piece after the tournament is over. I'll be in the message boards, obviously, clowning around with all of those hooligans. But so this video, go ahead and like it, subscribe to the page. We really appreciate it. Check us out on orangebloods.com. We've got a lot of good stuff going on over there. We'll have game threads for every single Texas game in the tournament. I'll be talking about the other games that are happening in the Big 12 tournament. We'll be scoreboard watching around the country, giving updates on those in the message boards. I'll have a full Big 12 tournament recap once that is all done, once Texas is either crowned the champions or eliminated. You can follow us on Twitter. You can find Zach at the Dish. You can find me at Aaron Little OB. Like I talked about, go back up, listen to the section where we talked about roadblocks for a certain profession. Tweet us your best ones. I would love to send out a bunch of retweets on those, interact, hear a bunch of ideas. I know I thought of a bunch. It's going to be a fun week of baseball, and we've had a lot of fun talking to you guys about the regular season, and we plan on being back next week. Obviously, once the bracket is dropped, we are going to be back in the Zoom on the YouTube, talking about the field and where Texas is headed and who they're playing against.
Absolutely.
Yep. So we'll get out of here. Everyone enjoy the week. Enjoy watching a lot of baseball and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.